Hi fiddlers, I'm Reynolds here with session 8 of 10 of the Free-Fiddle-Workshop. This is version 2a. It's the 29th of June 2014 here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I'm going to follow a document I wrote called 2 Shuffles. Session 8 is 2 Shuffles. I recommend that you download a copy of this document so you can follow along. You can get a copy of this document at dropbox.com, Free-Fiddle-Workshop, with dashes in between. I have copies of all the sessions, written copies of all the sessions there. When I'm done with the sessions, if you go to YouTube and search Free-Fiddle-Workshop, dashes in between session, and you can put the 2-digit numbers 01 through 10. And I'll also have samples up there, Free-Fiddle-Workshop sample with the 2-digit number afterwards. The samples need to be updated. I'll have those updated by September. So let's get started with this. Here's what I'm going to be showing you fiddlers how to do. A shuffle on the AD double stop. I'm also going to have, I'm not going to teach it in this workshop, but I'm also going to have a follow-up video that puts some notes to that. The simplest fiddle tune there is, Biled and Cabbage. So that's the objective of this work session. You won't be playing it like that at the end of this work session, but I'll give you the practice methods to play like that. This workshop defines, I'm on page 1, this workshop defines a shuffle as 1 note and 2 short notes. This workshop is also going to recommend, though, that a better way to think of that may be with the 2 short notes followed by the long note. So separate it like that, and I'll be going into that further in this section. The single notes are allowed to have more volume than the long note, the long stroke and the 2 short strokes. And the 2 short strokes, the first note of the shuffle can be a little bit louder than the second note, but to really clean up your music, you should be able to hear every note. An improvisation rule, general rule, I'm on page 2 now. The first and third notes of a measure should match the chord structure of the song at the time you're playing it, and the other notes can be just about anything. I'm just going to mention that. I'm going to teach also, I'm going to emphasize, shuffles are mostly used in the hoedown. We're going to concentrate on shuffles on this part of the bow. That's where the hoedowns are usually played, and that's the part where you can cover it in session 6, where you can just very little upper arm movement. Hillbilly Beat Review. This is from session 5 in math. If you look at the notation, here's a little picture down here of notation. A long stroke followed by 2 short strokes, and it looks like the 2 short strokes should be just each of them 1/2 of the long stroke. To really get snap in the music, what you can do is delay and squeeze those 2 notes in at the end of a measure. And that's what this workshop calls the hillbilly beat. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit more in this session. Shuffle fundamentals. I'm on page 3. Shuffle math. For the 17 years of lessons that I took, I was taught to do shuffles using the wrist. This workshop teaches using the entire forearm. If you look at the hottest fiddlers, they use their whole forearm for the shuffle. Now the shuffle math. How can moving an entire mass forearm be more efficient than moving a wrist? And the answer is twofold. Number 1, the forearm muscle is more powerful than the wrist muscle. And number 2, the forearm is a longer lever. So with just a little bit of movement down here from a more powerful muscle, I get a lot more movement up here and still have power under the control. On most importantly, in the middle of page 3. In the previous two sessions, this workshop emphasized playing on the perpendicular plane. This rule does not apply to shuffles. What you want to do is keep your arm as steady as possible, and I'm going to put the bow on this part, and when I'm just going to move my forearm. Now this movement here on the wrist shoulder plane is not the perpendicular plane that we preached in 6 and 7. I'm just going to do just down and back, keeping my arm moving and going up and down. That's a good enough cohesive sound for a shuffle. And when I did that, I was just moving along the wrist shoulder plane, which at this point in the bow is not even close to the perpendicular plane for the long notes. So shuffles will not be played on the perpendicular plane. The two shuffle directions at the end of a down bow, I call this an up shuffle, where the first movement is up and the second movement is down. And these are short, controlled movements, just up and back. And at the end of an up bow, we call it a down shuffle, just a little bit down and a little bit back to the starting point. The hillbilly beat and practice method, I'm going to give a demonstration at the end of this session on how I recommend to practice these songs so to get the hillbilly beat in there. Don't forget to come back in the middle of page 4. Pay attention, it's two directions. It's not just one, it's two. The song hoedowns go fast. Make sure you hear that second note. The 6-step rotation, I have some pictures. We're going to be doing really what it is a partial up bow covered in session 6, and then with just two little movements at the end. So step 0, and I'm just going to grab the bow for this. I'm going to use the workshop grip and grab the bow. So step 0 is ready for the partial down bow. Step 1 is a partial down bow. We're not going to use much of the bow. This is a hoedown, so we're using very little bow. Step 2, a little movement up. Step 2 is down, back down. Step 3, the up bow, partial up bow. Then down and back up. There's the 6 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The long bow, I'm using probably about 3 to 4 times as much bow on the long bow as I am on the shuffles. You want to get a consistent bow ratio in order for that to work. So there's the 6. So there's the pictures of the 6 steps there. I'm on to page 7. No jerking. Don't jerk your arm. It's a very controlled movement, out and back. Before you begin the exercise, we're going to do this proper. I'm going to emphasize this before every exercise. Proper upper arm orientation. Remember that we still want to orient the upper arm so that expansion occurs along the perpendicular plane. I covered this in session 5. If your elbow is too low, when I expand, remember that we want to move the upper arm as little as possible. If my elbow is too low, my expansion goes below the perpendicular plane. If my elbow is out too far, it goes past the perpendicular plane. For me, on a double stop, I'll probably need the arm up here. The other session showed the E string. I'm going to need my arm up here, and I'm just going to eyeball it. I need my arm to be about equal with my hip. I need it at about this angle for the AD double stop, and I'm just going to eyeball it. That expansion looks to be right along the perpendicular plane that we want for the fiddle. Number 2, down bow transition. Remember, when you're doing up bow, we're going to pull towards the ear. We're not pushing towards the fiddle, and this applies to both the shuffle. The shuffles are going to take place along the wrist shoulder plane, not along the perpendicular plane. And even on the up bow, we pull back towards the ear. The resistance of the bow against the string is what makes the hand move towards the fiddle. Bend your wrist upward. This is the workshop grip that we're doing. And remember on page 8 to do the proper workshop grip. I'm saying just grab the bow, but don't grab it down like this. Place the flat side of the frog against the palm. Close your hand. Keep your hand off the horse here. We're grabbing the bow kind of at the end. This grip is kind of conducive to the upwards wrist bend. Okay, so Here's the exercise. Got my arm oriented, got the workshop grip. Lower the bow onto the strings. The weight of the arm keeps the bow steady. We want to be steady at all times, be able to stop anytime with the bow solid on the strings. Partial down bow, up shuffle, just a little ways up the wrist shoulder plane, back down, up shuffle, or up partial bow, down shuffle 2, look how little I'm moving my upper arm. As you get better, speed it up. Look how little I'm moving my upper arm. And finally, I'm going to give a little practice demonstration on how I recommend to do this. To do this, one of my favorite tunes is Red Apple Rag, and now Biolin Cabbage is pretty simple. Red Apple Rag is very complex, and I plan on having a follow-up video with that. Don't plan on learning that in a day. But the way I practice, the way I've been practicing shuffles, is to stop after every long note. So here's the first part of Red Apple Rag without any stops. So that's the first part of that. Now, how do you practice that to get it as clean as you can? And what I do, like I said, this enhances the hillbilly beat. Since the two shuffle notes are short together, I think it's more effective to practice the two short notes and then the long note than the long note and the two short notes. So here's what I mean. We'll start beginning with the opening shuffle is a long note. So I stop there. Now, two short notes and the long note. Stop there. Whoops, wrong key. Now I'm going to get started with the song. The last two shuffles in the intro, and the first note is the first note of the song is a long note. Stop there. Next, I have the two shuffle beats are on the G string, and then the long note is on the D string. Then I have two shuffle notes on the A string. Whoops. Okay, I'll even do that again. The first shuffle note is on the G string, and then the second shuffle note is on the A string. So there's an altitude change right in the middle of that shuffle. Then the next shuffle is two shuffles on the A string. Then I switch strings for the long note. And what that does, if any of those three notes, I'm just playing three bow strokes at a time, the two short notes and then the shuffle note, if any of them are messed up, just practice those for a while. Here's if I do the first part of it. So I just want to practice that for a while. And just do that until you get it clean. That breaks the song down into small enough components to handle, and then put them all together. shorten up the time and keep going. In the videos, in the following videos, I'm also going to include squawk notes with that. I'm Rock Reynolds. That's the end of session 8. It's been a pleasure serving your fiddle educational needs. See you fiddlers in session 9. Rap with you later.